So this is our architecture for our project. It's overly simplified, but it makes it easier to think about than all the nodes listed in the AWS. So what we have over here to the left is our main Jenkins server. This has build jobs for both iTrust and Checkbox, and it's shares the same repo as those two production servers, which have their own EC2 instance. They have webhooks that every time there's a git push, it will trigger a build job on Jenkins. The monitoring that we've added to the server makes sure that the CPU and memory doesn't go too high. The feature flag for iTrust server will turn off the endpoint to change the functionality a bit for users and, in theory, redirect it. For Checkbox, there are 3 subnodes that are part of a Kubernetes cluster, with the first one being the master of the other 2 for a total of 3. The main checkbox right here is the production server, where the other ones provide the microservice for Markdown. Open AWS to show off our nodes that are deployed to AWS instances, and which includes Checkbox and iTrust as production environments. So for each of these, we use AWS since we already had Jenkins server set up, and they all have their own public IP addresses, which are then put into our inventory file in Visual Studio Code. So if you were to do this yourself and set these up, you'd want to set up these IP addresses differently and use a different key pair file if needed, and SSH user if you're not using Ubuntu. So for these, Checkbox should already be up and running because I did that sooner, and we can check that right here. We can see that it's up and running. So we can go ahead and run the iTrust Ansible playbook that will set iTrust up for us. Now, this playbook was supposed to have set up iTrust for us, but unfortunately, we were not able to finish our feature flags part of the project, so it could not finish running Hibernate Data Generator. But Redis client was installed on that, and the intent was to be able to turn off the API for getting drugs so that if the Redis server had set the flag to off, it wouldn't be available. So if we SSH in, we can see that the Redis CLI, we can set endpoint active, which is our key, on. That's okay. And we can set it off. So Redis is indeed installed and the server is set up. So unfortunately, we were not able to get that feature to work. Now we'll move on to the clustering for the infrastructure operative checkbox and the monitoring that we did alongside that. So if we return back to the AWS console, we can see that we have these 3 checkbox nodes here, and they each have their own IP address. These, according to the checkbox YAML file, have checkbox installed on them, and they are used as nodes for our Kubernetes cluster. The checkbox YAML is for the main server for checkbox, and then the kube setup installs Kubernetes and then initializes it. Now, we do have the join here as manual, but you could change that from to use the IP address from your inventory file and to use the token that you have yourself. So now, unfortunately, we were not able to get the Kubernetes cluster set up all the way either. This was supposed to render the Markdown service as a preview in HTML. Kubernetes was very difficult for us to set up as a group due to other time constraints. The monitoring that was intended to be done on this was instead done on the Jenkins server itself. So if we go to monitoring, we can see how it copies the files needed for monitoring and does that for the main Jenkins server.
Monitoring part of our pipeline, I'm going to run this short playbook, which copies over our monitoring app and runs it. So it'll start up a server on port 3000 and then emit a heartbeat every 5 seconds. And we will see our page over here to the left get refreshed with CU and memory usage on our Jenkins server. And then we have these 3 nodes, which are the Jenkins server, our Checkbox server, and iTrust server. and each of these are on their own AWS instance. So we see it got refreshed, and we'll wait for the nodes. All right, so that's the demo.
So for our feature flags and the Kubernetes cluster, we currently don't have those right now, but we are planning to finish those over this weekend. Thank you.